This conference will now be recorded.
All right, I'd like to welcome everyone to the Town of Southbridge, January 14th, 2021 Board of Health meeting. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and Governor's March 15th order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Southbridge Board of Health will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Southbridge website at www.ci.southbridge.maus. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so in the following manner. As usual, via cable access TV Charter Spectrum Channel 192. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the Town of Southbridge website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive records of proceedings as soon as possible after the meetings. All right, we'll open this meeting 6:02 p.m. Agenda item number 2, roll call.
Elizabeth Stevens,
Here.
Roland Larochelle,
Here.
Nicole Duffy,
Here.
Anthony Postallo.
Here.
All right. Agenda item number 3, accept meeting minutes, December 10th, 2020. Did everyone have an opportunity to take a look at those minutes?
Yes.
Any questions, comments, concerns?
None here.
No, not at the time.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from December 10th.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, all those in favor?
Beth
Roll call.
Stevens,
Here, yes.
Nicole Duffy,
Yes.
Roland Larochelle,
Yes.
Anthony Postallo.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Special meeting, January 7th, 2021. Did you guys take a look at those?
I did. Actually, I had a couple concerns that I brought up and they weren't on there.
What was missing? Because Andy they were done right from the tape. Something was missing?
Yeah, none of my comments were on there. I had put on there about my concern about the recent spike in the deaths that we had, and I also put in there about how, when they made comments about the holes in the system, and just our overall, even our numbers for that day were just 30. So I kind of brought that to the table, so they weren't on there.
Andy? So then do we just, we'll have them
Table it.
redo them and we'll just table this for right now?
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Do we have a second to table them?
I will second that.
Thank you.
All those in favor to table the special meeting minutes until the next meeting so that they can be revised?
Beth Stevens,
Yes.
Nicole Duffy,
Yes.
Roland Larochelle,
Yes.
Anthony Postallo.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Agenda item number 4, citizens forum. Is there anyone here that would like to discuss anything that is not on the agenda?
I would like to address the board if possible.
Okay. Mr. Knoyer, go right ahead.
So I just want to take the opportunity to speak with you guys. On January 4th, the inspector came in and to follow up on the lift of the bag ban, and I didn't speak with him directly, but based on the conversation that got back to me from the manager he spoke with, I got the sense that there may be some confusion, and I just wanted to take the opportunity to clear the air if there was some confusion on our part here between us and the board.
Okay, well, we let you, as far as I know, we allowed you to continue to have the plastic bags for an interim period. We had a couple of complaints from people who said that they did not even see paper bags. They only saw plastic bags in all of the checkouts. So that was the only concern.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure there was no issue. Okay, because we had, we did provide paper bags. They were available throughout the time frame. They were available on the self-checkout and at the regular lanes, where we did use plastic at the regular lanes. If there was some confusion there, I just wanted to make sure that we were, that we were all on the same page. I understood it that the bag ban was lifted, through the end of the year. So accordingly, that plastic could be used.
So just so we're clear, you are the only establishment that took advantage of that. No one else in town.
No, I understand, and I appreciate that. I just wanted to make sure that, there was no, no mixed message, that that we were doing something we weren't supposed to, and I wanted to make sure that, we were on the same page.
Does anyone else have any comments or anything to add?
Oh, I just appreciate John coming to the board to discuss any matters with us.
Nicole, you good?
Yeah, I'm good. I agree with Tony.
Okay. Roland?
Yeah, it's over.
Yeah, I mean, that was, that was it. I appreciate you coming and just double checking, but that was the only issue, was that we did have a couple of people that were wondering why there were plastic bags and why they didn't see paper bags. But that's fine. It's
Okay, well, I apologize if that, there was some confusion there, and that, that we weren't doing anything intentional to, to not offer paper bags. Paper bags were still available. So.
Oh, no, thanks again, John. It's good that you step up to the board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else wish to discuss anything that is not on the agenda for the evening? All right, moving on. Agenda item number 5, COVID-19 update. Andrew?
Morning, how are you? I'm sorry I'm late. I was on a phone with somebody looking for some vaccine. All right. Stats for the town of Southbridge. We're at 1,170 cases as of noon today. We have a total of 23 deaths in town. I'm only counting the deaths that the death certificate specifically says COVID as a cause or COVID as an exacerbating contributor. There are, sometimes I call back and if people have passed from other issues, but we have 23 deaths in town. 14-day activity, we've had 2,031 tests in the last 14 days. Of that, 279 have been positive. That's a positivity rate of 13.7%. For comparison reasons, I get on the state webpage, and the state reports their positivity or their caseload per 7 days. They are at 7.11% right now. Town of Southbridge regularly hovers between 11 and 14. I spoke with Southbridge Rehab today just to get an update on their condition. I'm very happy to report that they have had no COVID activity for 14 days. They did have one of their workers with an exposure, but she was not in the building and has not been in the building since the exposure. So they're clean for 14 days. She's very excited about that. They had a vaccine clinic on January 8th. It went very smooth. She was impressed with the efficiency of the thing. I believe it was CVS who conducted the clinic for them. They've scheduled 2 more clinics, one on the 29th, basically 21 days past the 8th, so that they can do the second shots. And then another one 21 days later in February, so they can just do the final shots of first shots on the 29th. Vaccine distribution. The Harrington Clinic at the Armory is going amazingly well. It started as a clinic for the town of Southbridge and a couple of surrounding towns. They have since been recognized by the state as a regional statewide clinic. So anybody in the state who is in the phase that we're working on can go to the Harrington Clinic here in Southbridge. The state has allowed that they can start vaccinating anybody who is in any section of phase 1, but that they have to hold off on phase 2. We did move ahead of the state at one point, and the state asked us to rein it back in. The clinic currently is serving 180 persons per day with the resources they have there. They have reached out to the towns to get additional resources, additional personnel, primarily to staff their registration desks. The registration is the bottleneck to this thing. So they want to more than double the registration so that they can ramp this up to 500 persons per day and get prepared to move into phase 2. We're going to see a lot more traffic in phase 2 than we did in phase 1. And then as we go further, they're going to want to see 1,000 a day. So they're looking to the towns that they are supporting to donate staff. And I am welcoming any ideas on where we can find the staff. I've got a couple ideas, and I'm working with the town manager to see if we can cut some of the admin, not cut some of the admin, but identify some admin that we could contribute. The issue becomes this clinic is going to be set up for the long term. We are expecting no earlier than June before we close this down, and probably thereafter. And they're looking for the towns to commit resources for the duration. So, like the town of Southbridge would pick 1 day a week that we supplement their staff. The town of Brimfield would pick 1 day a week. But it would be, if we pick Tuesday, it would be every single Tuesday through this event. So I would be looking for the 2 people that the town would contribute, but I'd also be looking for 2 more people for redundancy in case one of our people can't make it on a given day. Currently the office is fielding, anywhere from 3 to 5 calls for guidance. These are usually from the daycares or the schools and stuff like that. Each day, 3 to 5 calls for interpretation of the law, for guidance on the law. We're getting 20 to 30 calls a day for vaccine inquiries. Usually the seniors above 65 looking to find out when it's their turn. And probably 1 to 2 calls a week of complaints of businesses without masks or not social distancing or not following the guidelines. I don't like that we're getting 1 or 2 calls a week, but that is down, so I'm optimistic that people are starting to comply. The state of Massachusetts is entering phase 2 probably towards the end of February. We are lagging other parts of the country, not necessarily in giving out shots generally, but in, like, people are calling me and saying, well, Florida's giving out 65 and New York's giving out and New Jersey's giving out. Why isn't Massachusetts?
Tell him to call the governor.
That is strictly driven by the state. The state set the guidelines. As I said earlier, we attempted to go past the guidelines with Harrington, and I'll say we, but Harrington is doing wonders here. So I'll give all kudos to Harrington. And they were asked to step back and relax. So it's totally on the state. I talked to the state representative, not the representative, but the representative from DPH today, along with 3 or 4 of our other public health directors, and kind of let them know that we were disappointed that, here we are ready to move forward and they're reining us in, and they're pushing us to get vaccine out there. They're pushing us to keep schools open, and yet teachers are not in phase 1. So you want to keep schools open? Let's get teachers moved up the ladder. We're just, as a group, the directors are not happy with the way that the state is scheduling, reining in, holding back, dictating what we think we can move a lot faster on. So that's where we stand with the distribution.
So, just real quick, Andy, I feel like we've asked this before, but why are we not using the Everbridge system to send out information about when people can get vaccinated in the phases and what phase we're in?
I've been talking with Paul. We are planning to use the Everbridge system.
So when is that going to be, in July?
We are planning
Because we've been asking this for several months now.
We are planning to use the Everbridge system when we start calling the people in. I've talked to Paul. We have a meeting for EDS planning next Tuesday, and we're going to present it to the bigger group. But we'll be using the Everbridge to call people in. Everybody who's called, I have encouraged them to sign up for the Everbridge system, instructed them how to get to the sign up page, and told them that we would be using that to basically invite the people when their time is due.
But do you see what my point is? If we put out a mass message on the Everbridge system, then that would eliminate the majority of the calls that you guys get every day for people wanting to know when they're able to get the vaccine. A simple 5-minute task, and I don't understand why it's impossible.
Talk to Paul about putting a blurb out there on the phases and the timing.
Thank you. Anything else?
Any other questions?
No, I just got to agree with Beth on Andy on that with the system. It'll alleviate so many calls to your office, and it'll let you know. I do get some questions asked to me too, and I just think there's a good resource out there. I know you're tired of hearing about it, but there's a valuable resource out there that can reach the masses, that can communicate, and just it's a no-lose situation. That's it, Andy. I know.
Roland, go ahead.
And to speak my piece, I saw the agenda, Andy. I know you do not set the agenda for the EDS, but as one of the people who did a lot of research on a reverse emergency system, as of one of those people that spearheaded Everbridge, I have no idea how they're going to call people in with Everbridge if people didn't sign up for Everbridge in the first place. Because unless you sign up, there are no demographics in the system. So yeah, you can make a circle around a neighborhood, but that's for the general public because it does not distinguish age or anything like this unless the individuals signed up on the system. So again, I have to echo what my fellow members. We spoke about this back in the summer. We have an asset which is above and beyond social media, and maybe it's because the wrong people brought it up. I don't know, but it's a shame we're not using what we're paying for.
Cool.
Yeah, I think communication is key, and especially with this. I think that would be helpful.
Certainly can't hurt.
All right, anything else on COVID update?
Do not unless you have specific questions.
What's that?
That I do not unless you have specific questions.
Oh, okay. No, I was having a hard time hearing you. No, that was, I don't have anything else. You guys okay? Can we move on? All right, so it is 6:20. So we will move on to our 6:15 public hearing to determine habitability of 718 Main Street. Andy?
If I may, on October 22nd, I did an inspection of the boarding house, or Mr. Foote is representing it as a sober house at 718 Main Street. During that inspection, I identified and cited 30 violations of the sanitary code, including 8 items that I considered a critical violations. I did issue an order to Mr. Foote to correct the violations. I issued that order on November 10th. I then was called back to the dwelling in December, and none of the conditions cited had been corrected. Some of the conditions that I cited included smoke detectors that did not work, no cold water to the sinks, water to the bathroom first floor was trickling out. There was actually blood splatter on some of the walls and ceilings in the second floor. Rodent activity. All of the electrical panels in the place, the covers were missing, and there was unauthorized wiring that was done to it, unauthorized plumbing in the building. Heat throughout the building did not work. It was just, it was poor conditions. Went back in December, conditions had not been fixed yet. Soon thereafter, I received copies of documents from the courts that showed the owner of the building had entered into court agreements to move the people out, thereby the building being vacant. I am bringing it to the Board of Health to determine whether we should declare it unfit for human habitation until such time that the violations are correct with proper permits, with proper contracting, and the Board of Health has approved the repairs. While I was going through the file, I did note that on 11/13, we dismissed a court case, and part of that dismissal was the dwelling unit is vacant, and an agreement was made with the defendant, who at the time was Hunter Foote, was made with the defendant that it shall remain vacant until the conditions in the order have been addressed. I was not babysitting the building because we had this court order that it remained vacant. I was not aware that it was occupied until I got the complaint in November. So the building should not have been occupied in the beginning. I mean, in November to actually have generated the violations I discovered. Thank you.
I see we have Mr. Foote with us.
Sorry, I couldn't quite hear you.
Sorry about that. Apparently Siri decided she wanted to talk. So, Mr. Foote, do you have anything that you would like to say?
Yes, absolutely. Indeed, Mr. Pelletier is correct. In November, I believe it was, that was 2019. I recall we did agree to leave a portion of the building vacant, and that was the second floor rear portion of the building.
You said,
which I don't think.
Did you say 2019?
I believe it was 2019. It was not November. The court matter that Mr. Pelletier referenced was not 2020. It was 2019, I believe.
Really?
Correct. So that portion of the building, to the best of my knowledge, was vacant. So it's a multifamily building, and it was one of the units that was inspected, and it was one of the units that was found to have issues. And that unit is not a topic of the order from this past November or the subsequent inspection in November. That was the second floor rear unit. All of the inspections that are in the last month and a half or 2 months are relating to the first floor, I believe, or the second floor in the front, which is part of the first floor unit. Is that correct, Andy?
The court dismissal in November of 19 referenced the second floor in its entirety. The violation was the second floor apartment that used to be a 2-family.
Okay.
I would take to understand that the second floor in its entirety was supposed to be kept vacant. The violations issued in November of this year include heat throughout the dwelling, so the entire dwelling. on the first floor common area, which would affect the second floor apartment because you have to, that's an area of common for both apartments. Cold water to the
Right.
bathroom, upstairs bathroom, second floor bathroom, cold water did not work. So no, I would not agree. I would say that both apartments, because the house is treated as a single unit now, both apartments are affected.
Correct. I'm not disputing that both apartments are affected. I'm asking if you witnessed any occupants in the space that was not supposed to be occupied.
There were occupants of the second floor.
In the rear or the front? Because the apartment was it was Mako Rosato, and it was a 3-bedroom apartment, which included 3 bedrooms and a living room in the back section of the building, but specifically not the 2 front rooms, which were included in the first floor apartment. There was a dividing wall, and one of the items in that order was actually egress from that back unit, which went into the front of the second floor, which
Okay,
wasn't,
I'm gonna
which
stop
wasn't.
for a second here. Andy,
Mhm.
2019, really? Because as far as I know, we've only just heard about this past November.
As I stated earlier, the assumption was that he was keeping it vacant in accordance with the court's direction, accordance with the dismissal. I was not babysitting the building.
For a year. So for
When I
a
got-
year,
when I
you
got the-
never bothered, wait. So for 1 year, you never bothered to go and check the property even randomly once to make sure that no one was inhabiting it?
I did not.
Roland?
I have a question. These dates bother me. We've had a situation in town where people are living in it. And the first I heard of it was when I saw it on social media. Shame on the town of Southbridge. Now, getting back to this, the paperwork you sent us, Sandy, October 22 is when you cited this. You cited 105 CMR 410, minimum standards for fitness for human habitation. Okay? Number 1, heat throughout the building doesn't work. And you went right down the line. Okay? Go to the last page. It says a reinspection of this property will be scheduled on or soon after November 12 of 2020. And again, on or after November 23rd of 2020. Why the hell wasn't the building evacuated? Did somebody go there like this reinspection on the reinspection, which I don't understand this, because in your paperwork, it says they got 24 hours. Okay? Must be corrected within 24 hours. Further down, it says you're going to go for a reinspection soon or on November 12th. We're talking almost a month. People are living without heat.
And water.
And we don't, and I don't care what it is the basic requirements for human habitation. If that was not done in a 24-hour order, I don't know what it's going to take to get people in this town to follow the rules. The building should have been evacuated and it should have been sealed, because people should not have been allowed to live in that kind of environment. Or maybe we'll do like some movies. Maybe we'll have to do like some movies, and we'll take people that have authority and have them live in that type of condition. This is unacceptable. We get this paperwork. We have no follow-up paperwork. And what do you want us to do, Andy, to determine habitability? I think the October 22nd report with all the violations, you went back in November. They're supposed to be done 24 hours. Nobody bothered to go back and see what kind of conditions was in 24 hours. Why are you coming to the board for habitation? Why? You just listed how many things that don't mean a minimum of habitation.
Exactly.
So if they're not corrected, it is self-explanatory. And I'm tired of things being brought back to the board so the board can be the bad guy. This didn't used to happen in the old days. If people didn't have heat, the old building department used to have people move the hell out and put in hotels or call the damn Red Cross and then send the bill to the property owner. We are now in January, almost the end of January in 21. And tonight I find out that the first time we've got a report is in November of 19. Unacceptable, unconscionable, and to be perfectly honest with you, I am totally fed up with it. The job's got to get done, or that's all I got to say. I don't think there's a discussion, and this even has to be in front of the board. There is no discussion. There is no excuses. There was no follow-up. People were still living in the building. They shouldn't have been in there in 24 hours like the paperwork said. End of conversation. We, as human beings, should not allow, especially human beings as public officials, we're allowing people to live in this kind of stuff. Shame on us.
Tony?
So Andy, I guess I'd be interested to kind of hear. I agree with Beth. I agree with Roland. So why is this coming up to the board when it seems blatantly clear that there should be no occupants in that building?
The complainant called me. I did an initial inspection. I made 3 separate attempts to contact him to let me back in to do follow-up inspection. Once I didn't make any progress that way because I never got in touch with him, then it hit Facebook and he made contact to Beth through, I believe, Facebook, but she can correct me if I'm wrong on that.
That's correct.
Through Facebook, so Beth brought that back to my attention. I made repeated efforts to get back in and finally did get back in. That's when I made a determination that something had to go. I went to Beth. I said, the building has been vacated. I have the authority to declare this unfit for human habitation. Do you want me to do it? Or do you want me to put it?
No, you did not, Andy. You never asked me to differentiate. You said, do you want me to put this on the agenda, is what you said. You did not ask me to go ahead and make the decision or to bring it to the board. It wasn't an either or. It was, do you want it on the agenda for discussion? And I said, absolutely, because it was already vacant. But that was before all of this. That this went on for a year and nothing was done and no one told us anything. That's ridiculous.
So it sounds like me, Madam Chair, that we have 2 issues there. It's the board being informed of the situation, and also it is now the condition of this home. So Andy, are you within your authority to act upon this without the board's discretion?
I am, because it's a vacant building at this time. I can declare it unfit for human habitation.
Okay.
Roland?
Question. Andy, you said you attempted to go back.
Yes.
You couldn't get a hold of Mr. Foote. When you finally got in, your comments were saying after Mr. Foote contacted Beth on social media.
No, it was one of the occupants.
Okay, were there still occupants in that building?
When I got in, there were still occupants in that building.
Okay.
Mr. Foote's representative said that they were moving them out.
Here's my question. You were supposed to go back, or somebody was supposed to go back for a reinspection in 24 hours. This is a multi-occupant building. Nobody even had the common sense to pull up, walk up, and knock on the door?
I did on 3 occasions.
And nobody answered.
Nobody answered.
I find, and you had no access to the common areas.
It is a single-family unit now. There is no common area within the building other than the porches.
Tony?
No, I'm just
I'm just
sorry.
checking. I'm just
Yep.
checking. I'm just irritated because I feel like So people have been living this way. And Mr. Foote, I'm going to tell you right now, you should be ashamed of yourself. You really should, because your business owns that building and you label it as a sober house. You have no management. You have no one doing anything to take care of upkeep for that building. And people are living in squalor. It is your responsibility as the owner of that property. And this is not the first time that we have been down this road with you. Not the first time. And I'm just very disgusted with you. I really am, because that is gross. No one should live without water or heat in the dead of winter. No one. I don't care what kind of a person it is, that doesn't matter. No one deserves that treatment. And you should be absolutely ashamed of yourself to be taking advantage of people that are in bad situations the way that you have. You've taken advantage of this town and of this board and of our inspections office, and I'm tired of it. And you might as well just take that listing off of the internet for the selling of the sober house for that property, because that's not going to happen. I'm appalled. I'm appalled at this entire situation. Those people came to you in hard times and you took advantage of that. And it's sad and it's gross. And this, unfortunately, is not the first time that you've done it, and I'm sure it probably is not going to be the last. Andy, what do you want from us right now?
Before the board for a hearing, you can either vote to declare it unfit for habitation, you can vote to take no action, but instruct me to make it, to declare it uninhabitable, or you can vote not to have it uninhabitable.
Roland?
Andy, didn't you say that you didn't really need that? That there was absolutely no reason to bring this to the board, that we still can't figure out why it's brought to the board? Isn't
No,
it
he
within
just
your
said we can do
jurisdiction?
no action.
Isn't it within your jurisdiction to determine its habitability without the board?
Because it's vacant, yes, I can do it without a hearing.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion, we close the public hearing.
Do we have a second?
Before we close it, I would just like to know then if, so it sounds as though we are leaving this into Andy's hands. Is that correct? Right, Roland? Is that what I'm hearing?
The way I'm hearing is here, it should have never come to us in the first place. It should have been handled like it should have been handled.
All right.
It should have been handled back on October 22nd, when there was supposed to be a reinspection.
I would agree, and I think Andy got an earful from all of us for the way he handled that. The issue's still at hand. I just would like to make sure that this gets handled appropriately, and if it's in our laps or if it's in his lap. But I agree with everything that Beth said to Mr. Foote. It's concerning to me to hear that people were living in those conditions. He knows it, so I don't need to revisit those comments. But the fact of the matter is, I just want to make sure that this gets handled the right way and that building is deemed inhabitable. So whether it's us or it's Andy, it's irrelevant to me. I just want to make sure it gets done properly. That's it, Beth.
Nicole?
I think we should be more focused on making sure we follow up with this and, to make sure that this doesn't, slip through the cracks.
I mean, Mr. Foote, do you have a plan for this property? What are you gonna do? Are you actually gonna fix it, or is it gonna sit like Central Street?
Yes, ma'am. The plan is to fix the building. On numerous occasions throughout the year of 2020, we visited the building. On one particularly a memorable occasion when visiting the building just to perform an inspection. One of the residents attacked me. We had to call the police. There were charges filed. On other occasions, other contractors had arrived at the building to perform work, and there were threats of physical violence. There were many physical altercations that occurred inside the building, including somebody being bludgeoned. The aggressor was arrested. There was blood splat everywhere. It was a very difficult situation. And due to the eviction moratorium that covered tenancies, not just for non-payment of rent, but also really anything, we couldn't evict the tenants. Immediately when the eviction moratorium was expired, we filed against every single tenant in the building except for 2. And we pursued that with the fastest way possible allowable under the law. As of this point, we now have unrestricted access into the building to perform renovations. We've hired Charles Wilmot, a licensed general contractor in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We've hired Felix Cotto, a licensed electrician. And we've hired Gary Newman, a licensed plumber. And with licensed plumber, electrician, and contractor, we should be able to remedy every single issue in the building. Heat has been restored. It was out of oil, and there were some other small issues. There was tampering that was done to the electrical panel. That has been made safe, and we are going to go through and deal with any other electrical issues that are present there. Really, the big impediment to it was a collection of very threatening, violent occupants in the building that made it very difficult to do work. And now that those occupants are not there, work can commence. We're obviously not moving anybody in there until we get a clean bill of health. I agreed with that with Andy. I'm fine putting that in writing. And at this point, we're just looking to move forward and get it fixed correctly now that we don't have anyone in the building to impede our ability to do that.
Do you have permits?
Every single tradesperson will be pulling permits as required.
And what do you plan on doing with the property once you have it restored?
It will be run as a structured sober living community.
What's the timeline?
I'm guessing it will be about 3 to 4 weeks to have the work completed, and then we have we're ready to go for occupancy after that. I know that there's there are problems with drugs and alcohol everywhere, but Southbridge especially. I grew up in Southbridge. I know that the community needs safe and supportive sober housing. That is what we do. The way that 718 Main Street was run for 2020 and for the latter parts of 2020 is not the way we run sober living home. I'd invite any one of you to come to our homes in Worcester that have served hundreds of men and women in recovery from substance abuse. We have homes in Springfield, in Westfield, and Worcester. We really pride ourselves on doing a good job. And the way 718 Main Street was run, not getting into the details, that was not the way we run our sober houses, and that will not be the way that we will run our sober house when we're able to reopen.
Do you have a management company dealing with your properties?
We manage all of our properties ourselves.
Anything else? So we still have that motion on the table that I never got a second for to dismiss, to just close it. But I almost, you know what, Roland, I agree that this really did not have to come to the board, but I'm almost inclined to keep it so that that way we know that there will be follow-up, because we will continue to ask the questions and to make sure that it's brought back to the board before occupancy is allowed. So I'm almost inclined to think that that's going to be better.
We know it's here because we've got this agenda and we've had this hearing. By closing it, it's taking no action because it's not incumbent upon this board, in my opinion, to be taking the action. This action should have been taken in October.
I understand, Roland, but now it is in front of the board. And I respect your position, Roland, very much. But I think I'm leaning more towards what Beth is saying. It's here now.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. But, Roland, I do agree with you that, yes, that should have been taken care of before. But, yeah, I think we got to kind of move forward with this. And I think it's best, the more that we can kind of monitor it, I mean, the better it is for us.
I mean, I'm just concerned what else is down the pike. This has been for 3 months. And this is the first we hear about it. And I have a good idea of what prodded it.
Well, Roland, I think we're
And
all in agreement.
I'm just terrified of what's out there that we don't know.
Well, I agree, and we're all in agreement, Roland. You're 100%. We know the history there, but that seems like it's another issue. That's a separate issue to this board that's we've been struggling with. So.
So what do you guys want to do?
I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay.
Okay.
May I add one more thing? There is still an occupant in the building. She is in the process of moving out, but there is still an occupant in the building. Her name is Maria Rizzo.
So what part of the building is vacant that you just told us 5 minutes ago?
Yeah, well, the second floor is vacant, and we were able to vacate 3 out of the 4 remaining people from the first level. We can't just unilaterally move somebody out. She's been looking for a place.
Now you're going to, because we're going to declare it uninhabitable, so it's your job to get her out.
We have restored the heat. We've made the panels safe.
And unless there's an inspection, because the last information that we have and the last photos that we have and the last documentation that we have was that there are over 30 violations. So I am not taking your word for anything, sir.
I did come prepared with photos.
The first thing on the October report, there was 8 items to be fixed within 24 hours. Are all 8 of them done?
To the best of my knowledge, they are, and I did come prepared with photos.
Then you had 22 items within 10 days. Are they done?
I do not believe all of those 10 items were, all of those items were done because it was only last weekend that we had access to the spaces in order to perform the work. So we had no access to.
So wait, so work was done without permits. So again, I say, you have people in there that are doing work that are making the space safe that you don't have permits for. So guess what? This is not rocket science, Mr. Foote. I don't care about your photos that's lipstick on a pig. Andy, have you done a reinspection of this space?
I have not, nor do I know of any permits pulled to fix the heat.
Okay, so there's your answer.
There was a reinspection and it was completed yesterday. Andy came by the property yesterday and performed a reinspection. He met with Anthony Havens, who was working on the property, and I would assume he would have noticed that there was oil delivered and the heating system on at that point, because it was at that point. The heating system was out because there wasn't oil. We don't need a plumbing permit or a plumber to deliver oil and fire up a heating system. The electric was, I don't know why it was alleged to be off, but it is on now, and the covers were off the boxes. 4 screws and
tags on the electrical, Mr. Foote. There were tags on there that it was cut off. I have photos.
My understanding was that there were the 3 covers were missing off of the 3 circuit breaker boxes in the basement. Those covers have been reattached. And that should have been seen yesterday. He went by the property yesterday and performed a reinspection. I have photos of the completed work if Andy didn't take photos and didn't come prepared with that. But
again, there were no permits for anything else done. Is there running water?
There absolutely is running water. I verified that myself.
defend
There's running
yesterday's
water,
inspection.
there's heat.
I may defend yesterday's inspection. I was there to ensure that the building was vacant. I looked in the habitable rooms and they all appeared to be vacant to me. The basement doors were locked. I could not get down there. I did not spend any excessive time in the building, as I was just there to ensure vacancy so that I could bring this to the board tonight.
My understanding was that we could have avoided having to declare it unfit for habitation because we've addressed many of the issues there.
Many, not all.
Except for
And again, we're back to no
all-
permits for any of the work.
the work that will require permits, that was not, the emergency items were no heat, no water, and the electrical boxes, the covers being off. The covers are on, there's heat, there's water. It's a safe building. We replaced the lock sets, and there will be work that will require permits. It's not life safety work. We have contractors that have been hired. They will pull permits. They will do the work correctly. They will call for inspections, but the immediate emergency items have been rectified.
But you got caught.
That should be with. What was that?
I said, because you were caught. You are telling, you just made the statement that you, as of yesterday, got the heat on.
As of yesterday,
You need
correct.
a calendar to count the amount of days. And you are the landlord. You are taking rent from people to ensure their basic minimum living requirements. If you weren't going to live in the damn environment, your tenants should not be living in the environment. And shame on you for turning a blind eye and giving excuses about it. You can't move people out? Yes, you can. You can't throw them out in the street, but it's your responsibility as a landlord to take care of your tenants. There's legal action. You got insurance on that building?
Yes.
Does your insurance call, and I used to own a multifamily. And in the state of Massachusetts, you have to have insurance for relocation of tenants. Relocation. Treating them like human beings, not like trash and discarding them. Shame on you for giving the excuses, allowing these people, oh, they ran out of oil. Who pays for the oil? Why did it run out? And they now got oil 2 months later?
When no one lives there.
No, he just said that he's trying to move the last person out. So there
Yeah,
was somebody still living there months after the written order was given. Do you have the finances for doing this dream of a building? Or is it going to be all the excuses like the rest of the buildings you have in town? Because I'm
We
sorry,
absolutely
Mr.
have
Foote, you know,
Mhm.
the things that you've told me, I saw pictures of those panels. It wasn't only the covers off, it was illegal connections that were damn dangerous. And I'm a licensed electrician. And I'm going to tell you what, I don't care if I was the biggest slumlord in town, I would not leave my building with that kind of electrical stuff. And I do work for a lot of landlords. And I am proud of the landlords I do work for because they're very conscientious to take care of their tenants. Not only take their rent.
Madam
There should
Chair,
not have been anybody in that building until it was fixed and ready to be occupied properly, humanly, and ethically.
Andy, or Tony, sorry.
so if we deem this building not fit for human habitation, then that will require Mr. Foote to deal with every single thing, all these codes and these violations to restore this, correct?
Andy, that's correct, right?
No, it is not correct. It will mandate that Mr. Foote move the people. It will mandate that the people are moved out of the building forthwith, and then it is up to Mr. Foote whether he wants to repair it or leave it in a vacant condition.
But then Andy, well, it
But if
sounds like, go ahead,
Oh,
I'm
no,
sorry,
go
Beth.
No, go ahead, Tony.
So it sounds like to me, part of that is already coming to fruition. There's this one individual that is on the process of being removed from the property. Correct, Mr. Foote? That's what you're telling us.
As of a couple of days ago, I thought she'd moved out, but now I'm being told that she still has not moved out. She is still living there. We are trying to relocate her. Yeah, we're trying to relocate her, and hopefully that will happen.
All right, so if we deem this building not fit for human habitation now, then they'll be forced to move this individual out. The house is shut down. All these codes and violations must be taken care of before our position changes. Is that more accurate?
Yes, before it can be reoccupied, the Board of Health agent would confirm that it meets the minimum standards.
All right. So I think, you know, I agree with everything my board, the board members have been saying about the deplorable conditions. And it is funny to me that how all of a sudden everything is brought up to attention. But the fact still remains, we still have this issue. And I think the board should act on it so we can close it down. We get these people out of here. He's going to have to be forced to take care of all these codes and the violations. And then once they're fixed, then we're done.
Could I speak in closing before a decision is made?
Sure.
Thank you. Mr. Pelletier, as an agent of the Board of Health, conducted an inspection yesterday. For some reason, no photos were taken and no written inspection report was prepared that would have documented that.
Did you not hear what he just said? He went to see if there were occupants. That was not a reinspection. That was to look for occupants.
Called for a reinspection, and he arrived at the property. I presumed that that was a reinspection. I did not know that a reinspection was not going to be completed, even though the order said that there would be one, and that him performing a reinspection is now not going to be called a reinspection. I assumed that as an agent of the board, he would have brought back information to you that the heat was restored, that the power was safe, and that the building would have been habitable and occupiable at that point. Furthermore,
Sir, he just said that the basement was locked and he did not have access. How is he to check those things if he doesn't have access to it?
There was a maintenance person there who could have easily provided access if requested.
So Mr. Foote, are you going to hear? If I say portable water restored,
yes,
heating facilities, you're saying gas, temperature requirements, lights and pathways, hallways, stairways, plumbing connections.
Yes.
You have proof for this board right now to run through this list showing us that each item on this list has been completed to the town's satisfaction.
I have a dozen photos. I don't have a photo of plumbing connections specifically. I don't have any photos that could document how warm the building was, but your agent arrived at the property to perform a reinspection, and your agent is not bringing you any information that I can provide photos. I can provide access for a reinspection to be made, but ordering the building unfit for habitation without having the information to do so, after having been presented with verbal testimony and the offer for photographs, is in my opinion, and I agree with all of what you're saying, I believe that it's inappropriate to for this board to make a decision without any information confirming that the work was done when you've been given testimony that, in fact, the issues have been rectified. And my testimony.
And sir, when were they rectified now? They've been rectified this week as soon as it was put on our agenda for you to appear to this board. So no.
Correct.
So you've had 3 months. You've had 3 months to deal with this, and you waited until 3 days before you were to appear before this board to finally decide that you were going to do the bare minimum so that you can escape again.
So, Madam,
if I could respond to that, the matter at hand for this hearing is whether or not the building is fit for human habitation at this point.
The information that we have and the photos that we have, and according to our agent who has been to the property, tells us otherwise. Andy.
Yes. As I said, I was there just to determine the occupancy, because occupancy of a building affects the method of declaring unfit for human habitation. If the building is occupied, it must go before the Board of Health. I don't have the power to do it. I can tell you what I did observe in my spree through there was the wall that I had cited had been removed. I do not know if my building inspector would require a permit to do that. I also know the pile of trash that was in the backyard still exists there today. I did not test any water. I did not look at the plumbing connections because that was not my intent to be there.
So Madam Chair, is there, I understand what Mr. Foote is saying. Is there a way that we can get an inspection done with this sooner than later, tomorrow? And put a motion forth that if all of these conditions are not remedied, then we put forth a motion that this house will deem not fit for human habitation.
I think I can help you with your thought process, Tony.
Thank you. Thank you.
Andy, any permits pulled to do work in this building?
Seen any? To my knowledge, there have been none.
Okay, Mr. Foote, you said that the heat was off due to lack of oil. It doesn't take a
Correct.
permit. It doesn't take a permit to fill an oil tank. I agree with you. You said something else, some minor repairs to the heating system. What was that?
I don't actually know. I think it was to bleed the oil line and to fire it up, maybe to
Okay,
clean it, but I know it was
that's the
to bleed oil
normal.
line.
That's the normal restart procedures. Okay. Smoke detector doesn't work. We had some other electrical things that didn't work. Was there an electrical permit pulled? If there was an electric permit pulled, there's no proof that there was an inspection, a call for inspection, or it was done right. To move on, there was
I
no
don't
cold
know.
water in this. Why was there no cold water in the sink of the first floor bathroom?
I am not sure, but I know there is now. And when I went
Okay,
there,
so
when we were just getting
whatever
started, there
the-
was. I don't know.
whatever the solution to this, it is required that a plumbing permit is pulled to even change a faucet washer. So if no permits were pulled, those repairs were done illegally. And there is no proof. You are claiming that we have no proof to deem it uninhabitable. You're saying these things are fixed. Andy says there is no permits taken. I don't want to see your pictures because I don't have the before pictures, so I don't know what the pictures are for. But you're telling me these things are fixed. There's still somebody in the building. There has been no permit, which is a violation of law, and nobody is going to tell me that they are done correctly. So you really want us to believe that Andy's lying, everything is fixed hunky-dory, and this building is safe? By your word, there is a process. You did not follow the process, sir. There is no permits taken that are required. The permits are there to protect and they're there to protect you, Mr. Foote, because if you hired a hack as a contractor and they Mickey Moused it, the inspectors are there to find those faults and protect you as well as your tenants. Our thing here is to protect the health and safety of everybody involved. So I really take it back that Andy spent all his time writing up this thing of October. I am not happy at the lack of information. But there's nobody in this world that's going to tell me, and like you said, I don't know how stupid you think we are, but if Andy made an appointment with you to do a reinspection, as you called it, you had a maintenance person on scene. I am sure you don't treat inspections of the city of Worcester and Springfield like this, because your people would be standing on the curb waiting for and greeting the inspectors and giving them full access unless there's something to hide. So I'm sorry, sir. I do not believe what you're saying. If these things are fixed, they were fixed illegally. I question because there's no proof that they were done correct. And then we have the other issues that go on that you had 10 days from October. I don't know, maybe there's 7,000 hour days in your world. But there are some things that you don't need a permit. But when you're playing with plumbing, you need a permit. When you play with electrical, you need a permit. And I'm not sure about some of the building. But it also said within 24 hours, the rat dropping. Do you have a report that you can fax us right now for an exterminator?
The rat droppings were cleaned, and I have about 12 photos that I can show you
Oh.
before and after showing the cleanliness.
They're cleaned. But something left them there where the rats exterminated.
I believe the guys set traps, and they absolutely got rid of all of the food that was left all over the building that was attracting them and keeping them in the building if they were in the building in the first place. Everything has been cleaned out.
It would have been nice for your case, and I would have very well accepted the report from your exterminator to take care of item number 7, if that and so exists. But we are getting less from you than we're getting from Andy. And I'm sorry, but at this point in time, with all these things you had since October, it wasn't done, and you're admitting that there's still somebody living in this condition. You have no proof that they're done, and I have not seen it. That if that's the case, not to prolong this, then I will make the motion that we declare this building inhabitable because it doesn't fit, it doesn't adhere to the minimum standards.
Could I make another offer to show photos? Because at this point, I've offered evidence and it is not being considered by the board at this time. And furthermore, the inspection that Andy completed was not a scheduled inspection. It was an impromptu inspection that I was not aware of prior to it happening, so I couldn't have even gotten down there. And then the comment about having to do plumbing, perhaps the water shutoffs were just off, just like the smoke detectors were removed from the ceiling. We just, all I know is that in very short order, the water to work.
Madam Chair, can I interrupt?
My issue is that I saw what those electrical panels look like. There were wires sticking out everywhere, as well as there not being covers. So if they are put back together and they have covers on them, that means that, again, you have illegally done electrical work to the property. So we're back to, again, I don't.
And Beth, that you're bringing up exactly the point that I was just gonna, and I'm sorry to butt in, and I think we can just, like Roland just said, and Mr. Foote, I think this is gonna be very easy. I look at that report, and permits are required to correct several of these items listed above. So, listen, we're not here to get in your way, but the matter of the situation is, do you have the permits that are required to correct those situations? And I think it's as easy as that.
I have the contractors hired and they're ready to go. The reason I'm fighting so hard against the building being declared unfit for habitation is the construction loan that we have on the building. They won't fund anything else. So if the building is declared unfit for habitation, the lender will call the note. They'll put it into default, and I won't be able to. It'll be 66 Central Street all over again, which I've been trying to get done with extra money, but.
So basically what you're telling us is we're supposed to let it slide because you made the mistake. And that's
not at all.
No, that's exactly what you're asking us to do. You're asking us to do the same thing that happened with 66 Central Street, where it sits and nothing has been done to it. And we're not doing this again. You have to have permits for any work that's been done. You rectified plumbing, you rectified electrical, but you didn't pull a permit to have someone come and look at those things and fix them. So don't sit here and tell me, well, it might have just been that the water was turned off, or it might have just been this. Because I saw, as I said, the electrical boxes with wires sticking out of them. So if you have photos of anything other than that, that shows that it looks normal, the answer is no.
I
Because
did
you
hire a
did it
licensed
illegally.
electrician, plumber, and contractor to do all of this work. They could have permit applications on the desk. They could have put them in the mail. They could be filing for them
I'm tired of
tomorrow.
excuses. I'm not listening to excuses anymore. The coulda, shoulda, wouldas. You've had 3 months to deal with this problem, even longer than that, and you chose to wait until right now in the 11th hour to try and pull the wool over our heads again. And I'm not buying it. I'm not buying your story. I don't care.
I'm not in any way trying to misrepresent. My position
You
is that
are,
the
because you have continually misrepresented yourself over and over and over again.
life safety issues have been rectified, and it would be inappropriate for the board to deem it unfit for habitation because I have evidence that you're refusing to allow me to share with, which are photos.
Do you have
The water.
I have permits.
I do have before and after photos, and the plumbing, there was no water. There is water now. The shutoff could have been off and turned back on. It is an assumption to say that there was something broken with the plumbing, which is why it wasn't running very.
Who did you
Something
have
we
go
have
do
one-
the plumbing?
which requires a plumber and a permit to do plumbing work. What part of this do you not understand, Mr. Foote?
The part of it where opening a water shutoff requires a permit. That's not work that requires a permit.
Not
You
what
can
you
open
said.
and turn off water. If the water isn't running and the shutoff is off and you turn the shutoff on and the water's on, no permitted work was needed. We've hired licensed tradespersons. We've rectified the life safety issues. There's a woman who's living in the home right now that will be immediately displaced because of a grudge that the board has against.
That is your problem because you did not follow the court order to get her out 2 months ago. You weren't even supposed to
wasn't
have
a court
anyone
order.
living in there.
Yeah, that was for the upstairs unit. This woman lives in the first floor unit. It's inappropriate for the board to deem this property unfit for habitation for the reasons that I gave. I've offered to provide evidence. The board is refusing to look at the photos. I have invited Andy for an inspection. I believe that what happened yesterday was an inspection, but now it wasn't an inspection, I guess. The board could easily decide to table this until the next board meeting and ask Andy to perform a re-inspection.
Okay, enough. Don't tell me how to run my meeting and what to do, okay? Because this is not the first time that we have dealt this with you.
Mhm.
And I'm still waiting to see what you're doing with 66 Central Street because, that's just been sitting there.
So, and Beth, I just want to say, because I did hear what he had said, Roland, and there's no grudge, at least for me, and I'm just going to speak for myself right now. And I'm just, Mr. Foote, I'm just looking at this black and white right now. It's for me right now, what's making it easy, if this were to come to a vote right now, well, I'm not going to vote in your favor. It's the permits that I'm looking at right now, and I'm looking at these conditions observed that constitutes violations that would require a permit. I don't care about the past history you've had with this board. I truly don't. I'm not here to put the screws to you. I'm just looking at that statement right there, and it's baffling to me that we've argued this for so long, because there are some things, and we can ask Andy, what are the things that require permits? It can be just as easy as that. So I don't know why we're arguing so much. If these things are saying that they require permits, then in my mind, that if there is no permit that was pulled for the things that they're saying needed permits, then they're not done. And I hope that you can understand that. I don't see how.
I do, but the work that was done to remedy the emergency conditions did not require permits.
So Andy.
Yes.
Can you add to this conversation? Because now I don't know what required permits. So can you add to this, please?
The 8 items that I cited included heat throughout the dwelling. depending on what it needed. Mr. Foote is claiming that it was just oil and a bleeding would not require a permit.
Okay, that's one.
Yep.
Smoke detector in the first floor common hallway does not work. I am not aware if that smoke detector is hardwired or if it's battery.
All right, so
Hardwired, it would have required a permit.
but we don't know, so we can't really say one way or another. So 3.
There's no cold water to the sink on the first floor bathroom. If indeed it was a matter of turning a valve, then it would not have required a permit.
Okay,
Water to the first floor bathroom sink is not adequate as to volume or pressure. Same argument.
okay,
Cold water to the sink in the upstairs bathroom does not work. Same argument.
okay,
Blood splatters, no permit. Rodent activity would have required a licensed exterminator since he does not live in the property. And all electrical panels in the basement are missing their covers. There are bare unattached wires in the boxes. To properly fix this, the bare unattached wires would have to have been attached. I have knowledge and actually pictures that, and I'm sorry I did not provide that picture, but there are wires that were running around the face of the box rather than through the penetrations. To reroute those wires and put them in properly so that you could put a cover on would have required permits. Filth and debris, broken glass in the window of room 5 probably wouldn't require it. External lighting does not work. If it was a light bulb, would not require permits. If it required any type of rewiring, it would. No apparent switch for the first floor common hall. If that is fixed, that means the switch was either installed or some sort of construction was done to make the switch, that I don't know where it was, accessible. One of the 2 stoves in the kitchen does not work. He could have conceivably removed the stove. Extreme water damage to the kitchen. Approximately 10 feet of the ceiling tile collapsed. Trying to repair the cause, repair the damage. That, I would guess, requires a permit. Apparent mold on the surface, nope. Bathroom, kitchen, and common areas of the boarding house are not being cleaned, nope. Drain under the sink of the first floor bathroom leaks, requires a permit. Toilet in the first floor bathroom not anchored securely to the floor, arguably by strict letter of the law, requires a permit. I'll leave that one there.
Okay.
Shower doors don't require permits. Outlet in the second floor bathroom does not work. Hole in the wall behind the shower. Broken window. Piles of filth and debris on the second floor, no permit. Stove, no permit. Broken glass in the kitchen egress door, no. Faceplates missing, no. Holes in the wall of the second floor, no. Open sewer pipe under the sink of the second floor bathroom, that would have required a permit. And the second floor bathroom not secured to the floor, 100% letter of the law would require a permit.
So it sounds like to me, there should be at a minimum 2 permits. Electric and plumbing. Right? Am I hearing things correctly?
And probably construction for the kitchen ceiling.
Construction, but if you're saying, you know, but what we can really say is we got two things, those 2 things. So Mr. Foote, I don't understand how you expect us to act in your favor when there are 2 things that you've just heard us go through the list of items.
Yep.
That I cannot comfortably side with you because of those 2 things. So I understand you have photos, and it must be frustrating that we don't want to see them. And honestly, in my mind, looking at a photo really isn't going to help anyways, when I know that there are a couple things that it says permits are required. So now it's moving beyond what I can do and saying, if it's a permit, it's a permit. What am I going to say?
Could I clarify? Not all of those items are done. There were 8 items listed that affected the immediate life safety of the occupants in the building. Those are the first 8 items. Those are done, and those did not require permits. The remaining items are being dealt with immediately, and we have tradespersons that have been hired that will immediately pull permits for everything that need to get done for phase 2. But the reports indicated there were immediate issues that affected life safety. Those issues are all rectified. The heat, the water, the light in the common areas, the smoke detector, everything that affected the life safety of the building has been addressed, and none of those items needed permits. And
The
for
light- wait a
that
minute.
reason,
Wait 1 second. The light in the common area, Andy, was that a switch problem that you couldn't find the switch for?
There was what appeared to me to be a living room that a wall had been built. And my assumption is that the wall had been built in the living room to create a corridor and an extra bedroom. The wall was built without any permits, but my assumption is the light for the hallway ended up in the bedroom that was created.
So the light in the, so it shouldn't be located, what's the code violation there, Andy? That it's not accessible in the hallway?
Yes,
Correct.
that's the
The light
electrical
switch was
code
not
for
accessible.
common areas like that, that the control device has to be accessible or automatic.
Automatic, okay.
So
But
if he
with
had a motion sensor, if he had a timer or a photo cell that these interior lights were on all the time for safety of travel, that complies.
Okay.
But to have it non-accessible where somebody behind a wall shut it off and people using that hallway didn't have access, that is a violation.
So this
that
can
wall was
so now
The wall was,
that's accessible.
okay, but
correct,
the
and there
thing
wasn't
is,
any electrical work that was done to make it accessible.
What's that?
but the thing is here, and Mr. Foot, understand something. I can get very emotional, but I am not vindictive and I have to keep my personal views out of this. But I am a licensed contractor. To fix your electrical panels, if you had a contractor, you say you have them hired, and I hope you do. If they're licensed in good standing, they know the rules. You pull a permit before you do the work. And if I do wiring and I don't get a permit, there can be accounts held against my license. Now, the situation that really makes it us difficult is that you are not a novice at being a landlord. You are not a novice at knowing habitability. That being said, you're also not a novice of how tenants can make your life sometimes miserable. I've been there and done that. I no longer own a two-family. So please do not ever think that this board is holding a grudge. Because I'm going to tell you what, we've gotten more mad at Andy than we have at you. Okay. Our concern is following the rules and the safety of you and your tenants and anyone else around. And when you had, like you said, and I agree with you, the life safety, you use the term of life safety. That's why you had 24 hours to fix it. But that anything touching those electrical panels, you're not supposed to take the panel cover off unless you're licensed. And that's why now even a home inspector has a license to pull a cover off and see if breakers are double tapped, but they can't fix it because they're not licensed electricians. But no permits were pulled. Therefore, there was no request for inspection. Therefore, nobody in the world, except everybody's opinion, can say it was done right or done wrong. But I agree with you, the first 8 items were life safety because you had 24 hours. The rest of it was still within the habitation codes, and you had 10 days, and that was back in October. What do you want us to do? Put yourself in our shoes. What do you expect us to do? You want more time to fix this? Since October?
Truthfully,
What other recourse do we do by not having you back here in another 3 months and say, I couldn't get this done because of this. What is our recourse?
I honestly, I don't know how to respond. This is the second time I've been in front of this board. I would be as upset as you are. I know it got public on social media. But this past weekend is the first time we've had unimpeded access into the building without threats of physicality, without having to worry about having to call the police, without somebody calling the police on me on a different occasion claiming that I broke into their room and stole things. This is the first opportunity we've had to actually get in the building and do this. And we did everything on the emergency list, and we will work tirelessly as much as we possibly can with permits, with licensed contractors. I can give you names and phone numbers as diligently as we possibly can to get everything in that building resolved before we let anybody else move in. We will try to move this woman out as quickly as possible. I'm just asking for this board not to come to the determination that right now it's unfit for human habitation, to give us some time to be able to do this. If we can schedule this for the next board meeting, we're happy to have Andy come in. We will pull all the permits, and the courts are open to bring me up on having not fulfilled the obligations that I'm committing to before you now. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, and I will do it.
So, Mr. Foote, I'm not sure I agree with our next board meeting. I think, to what the board is saying, it is kind of concerning. But I'm also not here to cause undue hardships. But this is a fine line for me, at least, because you have people living in there, you have rents, and it's only until these matters surface like this that we are made aware of this. And I am sympathetic to your cause about trying to get into a house that you have tenants that are acting in that manner. But I guess my question to the board is there some way we can gain control over this, to not allow, like, I guess, Roland, if you're the contractor here, walk me through the timelines. We got permits. When did the work gets done? What happens in this type of events?
Well, this type of event, it's very simple, because there's several different kind of permits, but there's also a maintenance permit, is what they call. So you don't have to be really specific, but that's to start the process. And you call the inspections office, you get an appointment because the town hall's closed. They meet you at the door, you go in. They make sure that your license is current. They make sure that you have insurance, and it's on record of that the contractor will be at such and such an address doing what kind of work. So if I was going to pull electrical permit on this, because I don't know why the lights don't work, yes, it could be a light bulb. It could be a bad socket that I got to replace the light. Requires a permit. So I get a maintenance permit, and you talk to people. Inspections department, I don't know what I got to do, but let me get a maintenance permit, because I can rearrange these wires, put them right in the panel, put the covers back on, see about getting these lights working. If there's any kind of major thing, and the same thing like the plumbing, you pull a plumbing permit, just so you notice somebody. And the thing is also is that by pulling the permit, the landlord is protected, because you, Mr. Foote, have the right, and I know you're well aware of it, because when it comes to the law, you're not a novice either, that being written up with these what Andy wrote back in October, you have the right on those life safety issues to enter a tenant's apartment to do repairs. I will agree with you that the second part, for normal maintenance, you have to notify your tenant and make an appointment. That being said, that's why we have the police, and I hear them on the scanner all the time. Okay, you were under order of the inspections department of the town of Southbridge to correct this type of stuff. If you wanted access, you had avenues to get access. But like you said, and you just said it, You fixed all these life safety things. But I know for a fact the electrical requires a permit. Did your maintenance guy do it? Because I know back in my other job, we've had fires in this town because the maintenance guy was a jack of all trades. And that type of person created problems. And that's why permits are required for licensed, educated, and up-to-date contractors. And again, like Tony said, it's a shame that we weren't on board of this back in October, because then we could have followed it. This is thrown in our lap January 14th of 2021 with documentation, and even you admitting it, that this goes back to last October. And then we hear for the first time tonight that some court document and other document going back to 2019. I don't know what you expect from the board on more time. I mean, I just don't know. I mean, you want the people out. How do you expect us to help you unless we say it's unfit? That's the only way we can vacate that building. I don't know of any other way, but this has been going on in writing that I see in the writing that was given to us since October of 2020. And I can't see this being prolonged any further, because it's just going to prolong you doing your work and bringing this building up to code. But something's got to stop, and I can't see pushing this off anymore.
So Mr. Foote had said, and I just want to hear this again, because I really don't understand. So if this building is deemed inhabitable, what did you say this is going to affect the funding? You want to share that again?
It's a contingency in my loan agreement not to let the building be condemned, be declared unfit for habitation, to suffer really anything like that. And I know this lender, and I believe that the funding for doing anything in the building will just stop. The lender, I don't know if foreclosures can happen now, but that has been discussed. I fear for what we will be able to do if it's deemed unfit for habitation. I think that we have, for the first time in over a year, unfettered access to the building, other than one building in the first floor in the corner that doesn't affect us doing any of the work except 4 plugs and 1 light and 1 switch in her room. We have full access to the building. This was not one of the tenants that was in court. This was one of the best of the tenants in the building. She's not creating any problems. We, for the first time, have access into the building to do work. And I know that, when I talked with Andy yesterday, he noticed that all the trash was cleaned up inside the building, outside the building. We had bags and bags and bags of trash. We filled up the dumpster on site. We brought trash to other dumpsters. There's a lot that's been done since Saturday. And if we have 1 week and a review in 1 week, if we have Andy come back every other day to verify progress, I can assure you that all that would have to happen is 2 days would go by that no progress happens and Andy doesn't see any improvements, or there isn't a permit application for electrical within 7 days. I'm fine with deadlines, but what I'd like to humbly request is that credit be given for 3 days worth of work done so far, and the determination made that it is not unfit for habitation because those life safety issues were remedied, and they were remedied without the need for permits to do so. Understanding that there is a huge concern as to the state of the building, and it will get addressed. It will get addressed, and we can put deadlines on it. I will agree to the deadlines. I can agree to sanctions if the deadlines aren't met.
I'm sorry, Mr. Foote, but we have been down this road with you before, and we have given you deadlines, and you have snubbed your nose at them repeatedly. We have asked you to do things. We have implemented plan after plan after plan with you, and you have never met a deadline. You have never been able to get any of the work done that you have promised to do. So I have a real problem with taking your word now. Your tenants were thrown out on the 29th of December. It's the 14th of January, so that's giving you over 2 weeks to get into that property to be able to do any kind of work and to clean it up. Now you're saying that you've only had 3 days to be able to do so, when the reality is you've had since October to get these things done and you didn't. So I have a really, really hard time taking you at your word because you've never held up your end of the bargain, ever. So I'm sorry that you got a loan that is a problem now, but that is not this board's problem. This is your problem because you allowed this. You brought this on yourself by allowing it to get to such a state that it has come to this board. And I'm sorry, tenants stink. But this is how you choose your livelihood. You know better. You clearly know how to use the courts to be able to get people out because you have done that.
Mhm.
So you seem to be able to do that, but when it comes to any court order or board order that has been imposed on you for anything, you don't follow through.
Hmm.
So I have a really hard time with this. And as I said before, I know that there should have been a permit for some of the work that has already been, that you say has already been done. And that makes it a bigger problem for me.
I understand, and it does seem like every time I'm before this board, it's a matter of grave concern. We have property holdings in many states, and this was a very difficult situation. 66 Central Street was a very difficult situation.
But it didn't have to be. You bought that property in that condition, so we don't even need to go down that road.
All of the orders on every other building, 18 Benefit Street, 60 Hamilton Street, 318, 320 Main Street, 340 Main Street, 630 Main Street, 113
There's
Cross Street.
320, but we're not discussing that right now.
Yeah, nearly all issues get resolved promptly, and I apologize to this board for the time it's taken to deal with these issues. The courts have been closed for all eviction activities for almost the entirety of 2020 without any way.
That still doesn't excuse the regular work that needed to get done that you didn't do.
On many occasions, we were not allowed access, and admittedly, I did not come to the board to request court orders. We should have been more proactive. We should have tried harder. We should have asked for a police detail at the property to get in without contractors or myself being assaulted. This building has been a very, very difficult part of life, professionally and personally. And we're at a point now where we can do something about it. And I would just like to be able to continue the progress that we've made. If you drive by now, I hope you'll be pleasantly surprised about the trash. The vehicles are gone, the trash is gone, the mattresses in the side yard area, the refuse, it was disgusting, and it's getting cleaned up now. It's getting cleaned up from a sense of trash, it's getting cleaned up from a sense of building permits, safety issues. We're just trying to make progress, and I'd like the opportunity to continue to do so. Not to start doing so, but to continue to do so.
I don't have anything else. Roland?
Question for Andy. Andy, your report of 22 October of 2020 with all those issues. what would take this off the unfit for human habitation list, if you would?
Condition in violation of the code is a condition that is not habitable. So at this point in time, I would expect complete restoration.
So
I do
So
not,
in order to make it, it has to be completely rehab?
it would need to meet minimum standards because it has reached the point it's reached. If I went in there and I found a broken doorknob or a smoke detector, obviously I wouldn't go straight to unfit for human habitation. I would allow adequate time to allow repairs.
Right.
Some conditions that are not critical conditions by code elevate to critical conditions if they're not fixed in a certain amount of time, such as trash on a piece of property. So individually, they would not constitute a condition of non-habitability, but failure to correct them over a reasonable period of time would.
So my question, Andy, if we voted right now to say this is uninhabitable, what does he have to do to get it? It might be, he still has permits that is not completed. But what would get it off the uninhabitable list? I hope I'm trying to explain this correctly.
I got it. It's a good question, Roland. I
Well,
understand what
the
you're doing.
minimum you would have to do to make it habitable. Once it's not habitable, it needs to meet the sanitary code. So the violations would have to be corrected to get it off the list in a
And that's-
workmanlike manner.
Okay. So that's basically what you're saying in your, you got the first 8 that was supposed to be done in 24 hours, and then the last 22, which some of the foolish things is like the stove doesn't work, is like get it and call for bulk pickup, have a nice day. And that solves that. So the only thing I'm saying is that if I'm trying to get
This is not a case of I brought this forward because there were 8 critical violations.
right.
There's still, even if there were 2 non-critical violations that were not getting fixed, it's within the board's realm to say it's uninhabitable until they're fixed because there's been no response to it. So the fact that there's 8 criticals just exacerbates the problem. Any violation that is not being addressed is constitutes a right of the board to declare it unfit. And it stays unfit until those conditions are corrected.
Okay, so that answers, I think, what I'm looking for. So here's my deal. Mr. Foot, you're saying that this will have an impact on financing. But yet you told us that most of the criticals in the first 8 have been taken care of. So
Correct.
if you are true to your word and we declare this uninhabitable, and you get your contractors in there tomorrow and they bust their butt through the weekend and everything else, and you get this thing fixed in a week and take care of his stuff, and Andy has an inspection and these things are taken off the list, he can reverse this and your lien holder doesn't even know squat. You get what I'm understanding? You get what I'm trying to say? Because I don't want to see another building in this town go to crap.
Agree.
These things have to be done. The board, we are hogtied and we are handcuffed on what we can do. But what we have to do is force you to do what you want, what you are saying you're going to do. And if we vote this non-inhabitable, and that's why I asked Andy these questions, we vote this uninhabitable tonight on Thursday the 14th. And you get your contractors in there tomorrow, you call the office, you have them pull the permits, they get in there, because you said yourself that the only tenant you have in there is the one that was nice and didn't give you problems. So it shouldn't be any problem to get in there with a crew and knock this stuff off in 3 to 4 days and call for an inspection. And if it satisfies the inspection, correct me if I'm wrong, please, Andy, that the unfit for human habitation goes away, does it not?
Violations are corrected legally, it does. However, there is a flaw in the logic, and that if they try to get in there this weekend, they would have to get a permit tomorrow.
Exactly.
And the permit is not going to be reviewed that fast. There's going to be an application and a approval process. Also,
But-
I am not
Yeah, but
sure. I'm not sure. Southbridge RE LLC owns this one, correct? Hunter,
Correct.
does Southbridge RE LLC owe any taxes, fees, or anything on this building or any building in their name?
Maybe $1,000 or a few $1,000 in aggregate,
They
but
will
I
not-
think pretty.
that would
So-
have-
We can bring that, absolutely bring that current when we get that number from the clerk's office.
but that creates
timing thing
another
as far as
problem.
approving the permit and a satisfying the town's requirement for payment of all debt due.
So Roland, I appreciate where you're going with that.
I mean, we're trying like hell to work with you because I don't want to see another building go in disarray, but we just got
I
more stuff
understand.
piled on our lap that doesn't fare well for you, because Andy's completely correct that people that owe money, and this has been a bylaw and a rule for eons, they can't get a permit. And even if you're hiring the contractors, it's for the property owned by the LLC. So you know, you're very well aware that they can't get a permit until the bills are paid, which means if you contact the assessor's office or the tax collector's office, find out what it is and get a check to them tomorrow, that means it's not until Monday that your contractors can go in there and apply for a permit.
Yeah, I don't think anything is past due, to correct what I was saying earlier. I think there might be some that are current due. I don't think there's anything past due that will affect my ability to get a permit, because I believe we had a permit for something at either 66 or 70 Central Street recently, and there wasn't any issue with it. So I don't think it's past due. I just think it's due.
I mean, let's face facts. If we voted this now, this should not kill your financing if within 2 weeks, the process is pay back bills, whatever, find out if you owe back bills, the contractors follow the law, they get in there to do the work, they call for an inspection, and these things are taken care of, it satisfies the inspector, and these are taken off the list, then the unfit for habitation goes away.
Unless they call the office tomorrow morning and ask if it was what the results of the hearing were, and Andy says it was declared unfit for habitation. And they say that they'd rather foreclose on it and have their own crew come in and do it, and then they'll realize that I don't know. Am I able to make a commitment to the board that it will get done within a certain amount of time? Are we able to come to an agreement in writing now with timelines and deadlines and things that have to be met?
As far as I'm concerned, Mr. Foote, absolutely not. Because, as I said before, I'm a no. I'm just a flat out no, because you have never done anything to prove to me otherwise. And I'm not apt to give you the opportunity to do the same thing again. I'm so frustrated over this whole thing. I'm sorry, but the reality is you have done nothing to prove otherwise to me. So, I mean, I'm only one vote, but I can tell you that I'm a no. And that's all I'm going to say about it. Does anyone else have anything any questions, anything they want to add?
You know, I see Nicole raring up, but I tend to agree more. I agree with Roland, and I understand your frustration, Beth. I do. But as Roland says, do we need to see another vacant building in town?
Well, no,
If
I don't. So that's, I agree. I don't want to see another vacant building in the town either. But this is something that he should have planned for. He knew about it, and he's
Agreed.
known about it since October.
Agreed.
He knows the drill. He knows how things work. He could have made other arrangements to be able to get into that property to rectify these problems. That's my point.
Okay.
And he
So-
did not do so. Nicole?
So
Oh, sorry, Tony.
that's okay.
Tony, go
I just want to know what the downside is to kind of echoing off of what Roland had said, to say, if not 1 week's time that this has been resolved, then we will deem that this building inhabitable. I guess I'm just,
Well,
what's the downside?
What Roland is saying is to deem it uninhabitable and then have him get the stuff done in a week and then let it go and then it'll be fine. That's what Roland's saying.
Reverse it.
What about the flip side to it? So what if we say, if these are not taken care of, and this is, there's no ifs, ands, buts, there's no wiggle room, there's no nothing, there's no exception. Like if this sits back in front of me in a week, then it's a no-brainer. But
So Tony, as I said, I'm a no, period.
Okay.
There's no changing my mind on it, but like I also said, I am only one vote. You guys can make whatever, you can entertain whatever motion you want to.
understand, Beth. I understand. No, I'm just wondering, and I'm not looking for a yes or a no, but I'm just wondering, is there any harm that I don't see in what I'm saying right now? I don't, like, opinion aside, is there any harm other than what we've already discussed? Technically, like, no, because people are still living in certain conditions, or what? Is there anything that's blatant?
You know what? My opinion is based solely on past experience. That's
Okay.
it. So
Roland,
that's where I'm at.
okay. Thank you, Beth. Thanks. Roland?
I know
He's
what you're
thinking.
coming to, and I'm trying to think. Andy.
Yeah.
Realistically, looking at this list, and Mr. Foote says that most of the first 8 of the health codes were taken care of, which with an updated inspection will prove that they were taken care of effectively and properly. Looking at the next, what would you say if people put their nose to the grindstone, what would be a realistic time, in your opinion? A week?
We got a big enough crew in
A week, 2 weeks?
to address all the problems. A
To
lot
make it-
depends on what the cause of the water damage to the kitchen ceiling is.
Okay,
If that's a roof, we're talking more than, that time. If it's a pipe that we have to replace a section of and then repair the damage, no. I would
if it was a
say,
leaking toilet up above, that's an easy fix.
Yep.
But even the roof, that could be covered temporarily,
that would not
because
be a
that's a
fix.
whole different permit.
In my opinion, that would not be a fix. A tarp
No.
on a roof is there for the next 6 months.
Yeah, well.
It is it's a brand new roof, and we've identified that the problem with the first floor kitchen is the second floor kitchen underneath the sink. There was an issue with a pipe, and there was a bucket of water, and the water overflowed and damaged the tiles.
And I would say that with the understanding that I expect this in a workman-like condition, I don't expect holes patched with toothpaste or
Right.
rugs with duct tape. Yeah, 2 weeks is not a ridiculous time to say to get it all done. Assuming we push the permits and get him all the he can do a lot of work without permits, like cleaning that yard, which
Yep.
still has a massive pile on the back side of the building. He could do that without permits. So while he's waiting for his permits, he could be doing the other work. Assuming we push the permits in a week and he qualifies to get the permits, I can see this.
You know, you're right. Second floor, I mean, you know, holes in the wall, replacing holes in sheetrock. You know, now that he's identified the water damage, pulling down the fascia of the finish of the kitchen and see what goes on up above. There's, like you say, there's a lot of things that can be done without a permit. That can be done over the weekend. That can be done starting at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. You know, if I was using my attitude, Mr. Foote, in some past occurrences, I would say I really don't care about you, but I care about this town. I agree with Beth that I'm sorry, but you have not been forthcoming to us in the past. That being said, if this is fact that you're telling us that you will lose your funding, if this goes into that, even though it kills me to say this, since you have had since October of last year, and you did not need access to clean the damn yard outside, and you're telling us, go by now. It looks nice because we've cleaned it up. You know, we're not that dumb. But I am sick and tired of landlords allowing this town go into deplorable conditions. And the next one on my hit list is the Vienna. And I would I would make a motion that if you have 2 weeks, the 28th of January is D-Day. And I would expect an email from Andy to all board members by town hall closing next Thursday, whether you have satisfied his inspection. And if not, the order of unfit for habitation goes into effect.
Not next Thursday, Roland, you mean the 28th?
The 28th, that Thursday, the 28th, that gives them 2 weeks.
So is that a motion, Roland?
I'll make that in the form of a motion. And it will be, and on a side note, that would be the last time.
I
And
will
I just
second
hate
that.
to see a beautiful building go into disrepair because you had excuses. We're onto it. You can't BS a BSer. You have
So-
given us nothing but a lot of excuses, and I am drawing the line in the sand right here and now. And I am so damn close to siding with Beth that you do not believe how close I am. Okay? But I don't want to see another building torn down if we can't. So you have 2 weeks if this motion passes. If not, the declaration of unfit for human habitation is is enforced by the board, effective at 8 p.m. on the 28th.
So I've seconded that motion.
Do you have anything to add, Nicole? Or
Yes, just waiting. Mr. Foote, I just wanted to know, what was your idea in mind? What idea did you have in mind as far as how much time you thought you could get all this done? I was just curious about that.
I was going to ask for 3 weeks, just given it's the winter, but we can nose to the grindstone. I think that 2 weeks is appropriate. I think that 2 weeks is appropriate, and I appreciate the vote of confidence, at least from Mr. La Rochelle, for mentioning that.
We're going to have
And also,
rain. We're going to have rain Saturday morning, and it's gonna clear in the afternoon. So the forecast for the next week and a half is so far nice. And most of your problem is on the inside. So
Mhm.
you have heat, you have electricity. If you are gonna be really honest, and it is not a vote of confidence, it is a demand. Prove that you're gonna be worth the vote of confidence.
And if not,
Absolutely.
it's a done matter anyways.
Yep,
'Cause I agree with you, Roland. 28th, it's not even a conversation for me.
I would agree with that.
All right, vote. Maritza?
I'm here, sorry. Yep,
That's
I'm
okay.
here. So the motion on the table is to continue until January 28th, effective at 8 PM to satisfy the director's inspection.
Otherwise-
It is to hold off the declaration of uninhabitability of 718 Main Street until
January
8
28th,
PM.
8 PM.
on the 28th. At such time, if the repairs does not satisfy the inspection,
It will be deemed unfit for human habitation.
Yes.
exactly.
Thank you.
Perfect.
And remember, there's timelines, Mr. Foot, to make sure that you're not gonna call Andy for an inspection at 7:30 Thursday night, the 28th. Okay, you wanna work with
Absolutely.
us. We have worked with you before, but the straw is getting very thin. And I think this is the last one that's gonna break the straw, because this has been since October. And you've come to this board for help before. You should have come in November.
I would ask the board to consider conditions.
Roll call.
Wait a
Jeff
minute.
Stevens?
Wait a minute.
Wait a
Hold on.
minute, Andy said something. What was that, Andy?
I would request the board put a condition on that Mr. Foot does not further occupy the building during that time, so that it does not make the situation
Wow.
better, should the board have to go.
Do we have to do that, Andy? Because technically, this is bordering on uninhabitable until such time as the inspection.
No, I think we should.
So therefore, the board has not determined that it cannot be lived in and cannot.
Okay,
Amend it, Roland.
all right, so I amend my motion that not only is during the such time, the duration of the 2 weeks, it is to remain uninhabitable and not to be inhabitable until such time as inspection showed that it's worthy.
What do we want the status of the current tenant?
The current tenant should be removed ASAP. That was under these orders that were existing since October. That still stands. And Mr. Foot, you told us you're in the process, and you told us you were going to have her out, probably, or have her relocated, because I think that's the term you used. What, by the weekend?
It's up to her. We've offered her an alternative arrangement very similar to this in a different building. She said she wanted to move in with her boyfriend, and then the boyfriend, there was some issue with that, and I guess that's why she was back at the building. I will leave the room open for her somewhere else if she wants it available at any time, and with help moving her.
You just tell her that she's got to get out into your other building per the Board of Health, so this one can be fixed. And then that's between you. We can't make arrangements for you, but if you want to promise her room back when the building is fixed, that's up to you. But what you've got to do is kiss her butt at this time and ours and get her out. And if you have a place to move her, I suggest that you do that TLC and get her out ASAP.
I will do that.
So do you have that addition, Rich, that the building will
Remain empty.
vacant and remain vacant until such time that it's permitted?
Yes.
Okay.
Do we need a second on the amended motion?
I don't think so. I
Okay,
think it's okay.
okay,
Yeah, it's on record that we
okay.
have
Can we
it.
do a
So,
roll call?
yes, we need
Yes.
it.
Beth Stevens,
No.
Nicole Duffy,
Yes.
Roland Larishell,
Yes.
Tony Postali.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
So Mr. Foot, please prove me wrong.
Yes.
You bet.
Please prove me wrong.
Yeah, do us a favor. Prove her wrong.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Permits
absolutely.
first.
What was that, Ms. Duffy?
Permits first.
Exactly.
Right.
Absolutely.
So he knows, all right. So,
All right, Mr. Foot, good luck.
All right. Thank you
Good
very
luck.
much.
So in
All
that
right.
case, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
there you go. I'll second.
All right. Hearing is closed at 8:07. All right. I forgot where we were. Oh, new
New
business.
business.
Oh,
I don't think we have any new business. I know we have old business though. Right, Andy?
Well,
We
I
don't
have
have any.
something new I'd like to bring up.
Okay.
Instead of under the other thing. Andy, what in God's name is going on at 60 Charlton Street?
Charlton, they are putting up, the balconies are starting to crumble, rocks or pieces of concrete are starting to fall. So they are currently putting up a protective, scaffolding so that the block won't fall to the ground. They are under orders to get an engineer to look at it, determine what needs to be repaired, and they are proposing to start repairs in the spring. Is that what you're talking about?
And the other thing I'm talking about is these are the type of things that we need to know before we hear it from social media and the public. Because I had a resident, huh?
I didn't even know anything about this.
Well,
This is the Board of
I
Health
had a
thing, right?
resident today from a resident that there is caution tape across all their sliders, that they are not allowed to use their balconies. And if the balconies are collapsing and they have the potential to collapse, is there a collapse zone and something set up so that people exiting the building have something over their head? And the other question I have, is the fire department aware of this, Andy? Because,
The fire department is aware of this. The
okay,
inspections were cooperative between Mike Julian and Stephen. And this is a building department issue. I did not bring it to the Board of Health because the Board of Health is not involved in this yet.
well, the deal is that back when I was still working, the evacuation of that building being a type 1 building, when the hallways get filled with smoke, the residents were supposed to go to their balconies and go to the far end of each balcony. So they came out one apartment right next to the fireproof stairway. So I don't know what the reason I asked you is there's going to be a contingency plan for the fire department, or there should be, because now that access for emergency evac is not in place. I understand the building's getting old, but that was brought to me, so I wanted to make sure. I know it might not be Board of Health, but it's still shit going on in town that, I wanted to make sure we knew about it and you knew about it.
I am aware of it from the building department side, yes.
Okay.
All right. That it for new business? I guess so. All right, old business. Andy?
On the blight, I have 4 buildings that have been taken off the blight list. One of them has been taken down, 48 Sale Street, 528 Main Street is occupied and no longer in a blighted condition. 20 Sale Street is no longer in a blighted condition. And 23 Olney Street was a vacant building. It is now occupied again. It's in decent condition, so it's not on the blight list. It's being used. A gentleman is just storing his personal belongings in there, but he is at the building every day. So that one has been taken off.
Is that little single family?
It's yeah, right at the end of Olney.
Yeah.
Right at the end of Thomas.
Yes, the white one. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Last meeting, or 2 meetings ago, 61 Idlewood was brought forth. The board asked me to go aggressive on that one. I visited the site right before Christmas. She asked me to give her patience till after Christmas. I visited the site 3 times, talked to her twice since then. She has not allowed me access inside. So I have since issued an order on her to allow access under 105 CMR 400, which is the basis of the sanitary code and allows access to all places requiring inspection. I have set a date for that inspection to be January 20th, I believe. So at 10 o'clock, I have set an appointment. Whether she lets me in or not, I don't know yet. If she does not let me in, then I will bring it to Mr. Caprera to see if we can get a warrant for entry. That is all I have on blight.
Roland.
Why are you looking at me like that?
Well, no, I just wasn't sure if you had something to say.
No, at least it's being tended to because Eric started this in 2016.
No, I know.
And it's about time because I don't know if this woman has heat. And I said it before, and I'm not going to belittle it, but sometimes people that need help don't want the help and it has to be forced on them. And it's even worse with the environment we're in now with this godforsaken disease and the way we have to live our life. It makes it even that much worse. So that means they need more TLC.
Agreed.
As I said, I have spoken to this woman on 2 of the 3 occasions, and she assures me she has heat.
Okay, so she's been receptive, but not letting you in.
Correct.
Okay, that's a start.
Okay.
So let's make sure we continue because maybe she'll be receptive to other observations and other help.
Right.
Okay,
Okay.
Are there any questions about any blighted buildings? I know, Rolly, you want to talk about the Vienna.
Well, yeah, that's what I was,
yeah,
I actually was gonna say, we need to start revisiting that because that's,
yeah, that was on last month's minutes. Nothing's been done, and either you said it, I think the last meeting, Andy, that it either fixes up the outside, so not only it's not an eyesore, but it's going to prevent it from deteriorating further as another gateway to this town, or sell a damn thing, or sign it over to us and maybe we can sell it to a receiver to make it back into apartments or something like it used to be. But to let it sit there is unacceptable. It's time enough. He's moving on with building other houses, but he can't fix that one and make it completely weather tight. You know, he's going to be another shame on him.
agreed. Anything else?
Agreed.
What?
No, I was going to bring up that what I put together for some housekeeping terminology for you guys to look at for the solid waste thing, but looking at 8:15, I don't think this is, I think spending time spanking the other one that we worked on was more important. If you guys wanted to, you know, I hope everybody got it. I know times are tough if you had time to look it over. But I mean, if you want to wait till next month to do this, where we might have a little bit lighter agenda and not have a public hearing that goes on for an hour, might be better to just see what you guys want to do with it. Unless you want to entertain it now. It's up to you. It's up to the board.
It's up to you guys.
I would appreciate pushing to next month, Roland.
I would agree.
And I would
Okay.
agree.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Oh,
you.
no, I just wanted to be here all night because, I like,
Exactly.
Because your little puppy's gonna have to go out soon, right?
oh, that's why I have a
No.
husband.
I'm gonna have to go out soon.
That's a good point.
The husband's already like, what the heck? It's taking too long.
Tell him to go to work.
He already did once today.
Okay,
All
it's
right.
yours.
Chairman announcements, I don't have any. I got nothing. Andy, do you have any announcements? What was that? Was that a no?
That I do not.
Oh. Just making sure. Roland,
Nope.
Nicole,
Not at this time.
Tony.
No.
Like, no, just get me out of here. All right, schedule next meeting.
Okay, barring any other godforsaken foolish things, second Thursday of February will be the 11th. 6 p.m. work like we did tonight, same time, same place, same bat station.
It does.
Yep. Sounds like a
Marking it
plan to
down.
me. Do we have,
Okay,
sorry.
done.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second. Beat you
All
to
right.
it. Beat you to
See
it.
me too.
All right, we'll adjourn this meeting 8:18 p.m.
Nicole, you're
Yes.
hiding. You're hiding.
I'm not hiding.
Last Thursday,
You're hiding with your hat again.
you had the coffee, now you got the hat on.